All right, welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm John Barban, and this Nico Iamaleava story is just too good, and it just more and more keeps coming out. So apparently, we're a few days into this now, and it seems as though the deal at UCLA isn't 100% done. So there's a few people have reported it, obviously. Bruce Feldman, I think, being the person who broke it. But I've heard a few other sources suggest that normally multiple sources now would have come out and also confirmed it, but it only seems like a couple of sources have confirmed it. So if he's there, or if it's halfway done, or if it's not done yet, it seems as though this potentially could still not actually even go through. But anyways, again, we're still early days. They only announced it, I think, yesterday, or at least the few people who did announce it. But I wanted to talk about this nonsense that is coming out of the Nico camp, but that this was about the offense at Tennessee and not about money. So, and the argument is that the Tennessee offense doesn't prepare players for the NFL. Yet Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton are both in the NFL. But the retort to that is, oh, okay, they're both in the NFL, but they're both backups. But since when is the standard to be a starting quarterback in the NFL? It's so rare to even make an NFL roster, even a practice squad, let alone be a backup quarterback in the NFL. Like, that alone is an achievement. Like, I think of players who were outstanding in college, like Colt McCoy. He was a career backup. 13 years as a backup is not a bad career. So if the counter argument is, oh, well, Tennessee's someone who wants to be charitable to this nonsensical argument that they're leaving because of the offense. Well, so now it has to be a starting QB, not just making the NFL, because like we said, Hooker and Milton are in the NFL. They're actively on NFL rosters. And it's not like Nico's camp didn't know Josh Heupel's offense when he signed with them right out of high school. Like, he knew this was the offense he was getting involved in. So now all of a sudden the offense isn't good enough. So that doesn't make any sense at all, that it was about the offense and not the money. And then if it is about the offense, let's just be charitable. It is about the offense. And Tennessee's offense isn't good enough because the last two QBs being in the NFL as backups, and who knows, maybe one of them will win a job one day when somebody gets injured, but backup still not good enough. So if we're going to actually go with that argument, and he's looking for an offense that not only prepares him for the NFL, but clearly Tennessee's not good enough, because it seems as though you can only be a backup in the NFL at Tennessee. So it needs to be a start. The standard is a starting QB in the NFL. And then we're supposed to buy that going to UCLA with a first-time play caller, a first-time offensive coordinator, is the answer to not only get to the NFL, but get to the NFL as a starter. Because as I've said 100 times now, the last two Tennessee QBs are in the NFL. But if that's the true logic, and it's all about getting to the NFL, not about the money now, not about the short-term gain, but about the long-term gain of being a starter. Again, a starter in the NFL, because apparently backup's not good enough. Well, wouldn't you go straight to USC and sit for however long you want to sit? Because Lincoln Riley is the only college head coach who has 4 players that are all starters in the NFL, 3 Heisman Trophy winners, and a runner-up. And ironically, the runner-up, Jalen Hurts, is the one who currently has the Super Bowl. So if this story was true, which I think the story's BS, but if it was true, by that logic, you would do everything you can to go play for Riley, and you'd wait your turn, even if it took 2 years, whatever it is, because he's clearly the answer to becoming a starter in the NFL. And all of his players, so Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, and now Caleb Williams. I mean, first overall picks, Heisman Trophy winners, Super Bowl winners. Their combined contracts in the NFL are whatever, $600 million. So clearly the answer is go play for Lincoln Riley. But that's not happening. He's going to play for a first-time play caller at UCLA, which is not a power football team. And what? That's the answer to get to the NFL over Tennessee. But if we're going to roll with this logic, why wouldn't he go play at UNLV for Dan Mullen? Because Dan Mullen turned Dak Prescott into the highest paid QB in the NFL, or one of the 2 highest paid QBs in the NFL. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Dak Prescott was not a big time prospect coming. I think he was a 3-star, and Mississippi State's offense, it was the Mullen Tebow thing. It was just a dual threat quarterback thing. It wasn't preparing you. It wasn't known to be preparing you for the NFL. And then look at the amount of money Prescott makes. So if the standard, by this bullshit story, if the standard is a starting NFL QB, then why wouldn't he go play for Mullen at UNLV? Or why not Clemson? Clemson sent 2 players. They have 2 quarterbacks that played at Clemson, Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, combined make over $500 million. Yes, Deshaun Watson's story is a complete disaster, but if you're picking a school that sends players to the NFL as starting QBs and make a ton of money, Clemson's another answer. But actually, is it even Clemson? Because their OC was Tony Elliott, and he's now at Virginia. So by all of this nonsensical logic, shouldn't he go play for Tony Elliott, which is the clear path to making a ton of money as a starter, not just making it to the NFL, but as a starter? Or is the answer Louisville, because Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP and he was at Louisville? But actually, and because this is why I'm wearing the t-shirt, Bobby Petrino was his OC at Louisville, and now Bobby Petrino's at Arkansas. But that's where Nico's brother's going. So does that mean Nico's brother has an inside track to the NFL because his OC is what Lamar Jackson's OC? And that's clearly the standard, right? Making it to the NFL as a starter, making a bunch of money in the NFL. So shouldn't Nico be jealous of his brother at Arkansas? Because that seems like an answer to get to the NFL. Or what about Iowa State? Brock Purdy has been to the Super Bowl in his 2nd year as a starter on one of the biggest teams in the NFL. So if starting in the NFL is the logical, is this what they're after, is what they're trying to say this is, and not just making an NFL roster, but starting, then clearly Iowa State is an answer to get to the NFL. Or Wyoming, the current MVP of the NFL, played quarterback at Wyoming, Josh Allen. So by this nonsense logic, you would go to Wyoming because it's clear that that's how you make the NFL and become an MVP. Again, I know I'm sounding absurd, and it's meant to be absurd because this is a stupid argument that Tennessee's not good enough to make it to the NFL as a starting QB. Like the argument back here I keep hearing is, well, Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton aren't starting QBs. But since when is a starting QB job the standard for choosing a college? That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, up until Tua and Bryce Young, you'd say Alabama. You would never go to Alabama because none of those guys ever became starters. Hell, you wouldn't go to Ohio State. Stroud is the first true success story out of Ohio State in recent memory of making it in the NFL. Typically, every Ohio State quarterback just stumbles and falls flat on their face when they get to the NFL. And Justin Fields was still another in that line because he's still he didn't make it in Chicago. Now he's bouncing around from team to team. Most people think he's not really a starting QB, or he has the talent but can't make it. So Ohio State's not the answer either. So this argument that it's not about the money at all, and Tennessee's just not good enough to prepare you for the NFL, even though they have 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. Yes, backups, but they're in the NFL. So if we're going to make this argument, then the logical answer is go play for Lincoln Riley, no matter how long it takes, because his players win the Heisman, win the Super Bowl, get paid a ton of money in the NFL. So that's the answer. But clearly, again, I'm being completely facetious here. This is ridiculous to think of it this way, because then you could graft that same argument onto Iowa State and Brock Purdy. You could graft it onto Clemson and Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. You could graft that argument onto Dan Mullen and Dak Prescott. Like it's so rare to start in the NFL that you cannot draw the line. I mean, the other argument's the Tennessee offense is too much of an air raid or whatever you call Heupel's style of offense. But that was the knock against the Texas Tech offense until Patrick Mahomes became a generational quarterback, and people were saying he has inflated stats. If you look back and see what some of the analysts were saying, so that logic doesn't hold either, because that Texas Tech offense wasn't known for actually preparing people for the NFL. It was more inflating stats because it was some version of an air raid. So there's just holes all over this argument, and the real answer is it was for the money. It seems as though the money's not coming through. And I mean, I guess if you want to be charitable, they saw the success at Indiana, and this guy was Sunseri was the QB coach at Indiana. while Indiana had the second highest scoring offense last year. So he's there, present, watching a team crush it. But Curtis Rourke was like a 4-year starter. And again, this guy wasn't the OC. He was the QB coach. So he was there. He saw it all happen. But this is going to be his first shot since Harry being an OC at UCLA, which is not really known as a football powerhouse. So none of this adds up that this is for the offense, as evidenced by all of my ridiculous examples of where you would go. So, and again, I don't see why Tennessee's a bad option. I mean, it's in the end, the NFL's drafting the player, not the offense he played in. And it may or may not give you enough film to make a decision on where you would draft him. But Purdy's an example. Whatever the film was at Iowa State was enough to just get him on a roster. And when he had his chance, he crushed it. So same with Josh Allen. Somebody took a chance on Josh Allen. Would anyone think Wyoming's the place that prepares you for the NFL? So this argument that Tennessee's not good enough to prepare you for the NFL is bullshit. And the Iamaleava camp that it's not good enough and that UCLA is also bullshit, because you're talking about a first year OC. So he has zero proof he can prepare someone for the NFL. So anyways, just another little rant I had, and that's why I picked the Arkansas shirt for today. Let me know what you guys think on this one. I know this is like the gift that keeps on giving, this topic, because it seems as though this UCLA deal with Nico is actually not 100% done. So I don't know. The next few days are going to be interesting. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments.